C3 Generative AI provides ChatGPT enterprise search that is verifiable, secure, and accurate across all enterprise data. C3.ai. This is Enterprise AI.
I'm David Brancaccio in New York. First, negotiations between the delivery company UPS and the Teamsters Union are set to restart today. They're trying to hammer out a new 5-year agreement and avert a strike at the end of this month. The end of the month is quite soon. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer has details.
The Teamsters represent more than 300,000 UPS employees, package handlers, loaders, drivers. Negotiators have already made some progress. UPS has agreed to install air conditioning in delivery trucks. It's also going to eliminate a 2-tiered pay structure for drivers, and it'll get rid of forced overtime on scheduled days off. The two sides are still at odds over how much part-time workers make. If these issues can't be resolved before the union contract expires July 31st, the Teamsters say they'll go on strike. At the same time, FedEx pilots have rejected a tentative agreement. They're expected to reopen negotiations with FedEx, probably under the supervision of the National Mediation Board. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
Now to the power of words to move markets and an economy. Leaders in China are signaling they won't crack down as heavily on that country's real estate firms, which are dangerously in debt. The signal wasn't actually words, but words that are now missing. Here's the oft-repeated official phrase in China that was not repeated. Ready? Homes are for living in, not speculation. The absence of that phrase was enough to send two indexes of Chinese property shares skyrocketing 12% and 7% today. Marketplace's Nova Safo explains why.
China's government has been trying to right the ship in its property sector since August 2020. That's when it introduced its so-called 3 red lines policy and that infamous speculation phrase. The crux of the policy was limiting the wild borrowing undertaken by property developers, but that meant they were unable to finish construction of many apartment buildings. Some buyers even staged a mortgage boycott. And China Evergrande Group, a developer with hundreds of millions of dollars in debt, defaulted. Many others defaulted too. Now, China's leaders are dropping the speculation phrase and say it's time to adapt. The last time they changed tone like this, they slowly got rid of their tough COVID restrictions. Investors are hoping the same will be true for the property sector as well. I'm Nova Safo for Marketplace.
Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index closed up 4.1% today. Key index in Shanghai closed up 2.9%. Here, Dow futures are down slightly at the moment. Yesterday, the Dow closed up 183 points, 0.5%. The 11th day in a row the Dow closed up. S&P futures are up slightly now. NASDAQ futures are up 0.3%. The Federal Reserve begins its 2-day meeting on interest rates today. Tomorrow, rates will go up by 0.25 of a percentage point to fight inflation. If they don't go up, unlikely, or if it's more than 0.25 of a point, unlikely, I'll call you.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Amazon Business. From small business to big enterprise and everything in between, Amazon Business helps simplify the supplies buying process. Amazon Business, your partner for smart business buying. And by Indeed, a hiring solution that helps businesses attract, interview, and hire candidates in one place. More at Indeed.com/hire. And by Grammarly, offering Grammarly Business to help companies large and small communicate better and move faster with enterprise-grade generative artificial intelligence. Learn more at Grammarly.com/business.
It's been nearly 6 years since Hurricane Harvey flooded the Houston region. The water caused an enormous $150 billion in damage. There's a deadline next month, August, for thousands of residents to get compensation for when reservoirs backed up into their homes. Houston Public Media's Andrew Schneider reports.
Maria Perez and Lisa Johnson bought their house in Northwest Houston 9 years ago, not long after they married. Their home was actually within the boundary of the attic's reservoir. Perez says they didn't really think about what that meant.
When we bought the house, they checked that it had not flooded in a 1,000-year record, so I guess we weren't concerned about it so much.
When Harvey hit, more than 3 feet of water flooded their home. Johnson lost her grandmother's china cabinet. Perez lost her wedding dress and suffered from asthma attacks during the cleanup. But the worst affected was their eldest son, then 2, who was so traumatized he wouldn't talk for a year after the storm. Perez says she wants the federal government to compensate her family so they can move somewhere safer.
Literally at the end of the block, there's a sign for the Addicts Reservoir, and it's a daily reminder. Every time I come out my street at the stop sign, it's right in front of me, and it's a daily reminder of what could possibly happen again.
Rocio and Jose Perez, no relation to Maria, also live within the reservoir, and their home flooded too. Rocio Perez says cleaning up the contaminated house made her husband deathly ill. She says doctors told her it nearly cost Jose his life.
They told him that he was going to die because he had E. coli and it had got all in his organs, in his system.
The two couples joined a lawsuit against the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. That agency built the Addicts and the neighboring Barker Reservoir back in the 1940s to protect downtown Houston from flooding. A judge ruled the Corps knowingly didn't buy enough land to adequately store the water in case of a major flood. It had imposed a flowage easement, assuming the right to store water on land it didn't own. And Charles Irvine, co-lead counsel for the plaintiffs, says if residents don't sue, they're effectively giving away money.
Those flowage easements will be claimed by the federal government for nothing.
The judge ruled residents are entitled to compensation, but they must file claims individually. Irvine says the deadline is August 28th, 6 years after Harvey.
People in the upstream area who do not file will lose their right forever.
Of the estimated 10 to 12,000 property owners flooded within the reservoirs, fewer than half have filed claims to date. Meanwhile, the federal government is appealing the judge's ruling. The U.S. Department of Justice declined to comment for this story, citing the active litigation. In Houston, I'm Andrew Schneider for Marketplace.
August 28th. Our producers are James Graham, Ollie Dalbert-Hansen, Ariana Rosas, Alex Schroeder, and Erica Soderstrom. Our senior producer is Meredith Gerritsen-Morby. I'm David Brancaccio. From APM, American Public Media.
Support for WNYC comes from Audible Theater, featuring new performances from Eva Noblezada, Gabriel Byrne, Andre Royo, and more this summer as part of Audible's catalog. More at audible.com/summertheater.
They confront the uncomfortable and risk their own lives to tell us stories from some of the world's most dangerous places.
I still don't know if it's luck or grace or an act of God, but I have been spared many times in my life. I'm very grateful.
The risks and rewards of being a foreign correspondent with Jane Ferguson and Sean Carberry. Next time on 1A.
Weekdays at 3 on WNYC or live stream it at WNYC.org.
This is WNYC, FM, HD, and AM, New York.